If 2% of the audience that receives your traffic campaign clicks on the link that you provided, and then 2% of those people, when you remarket to them, become paying customers, how many people do you need to reach with that first traffic ad to get 100 sales? What about 1,000 sales? What about 10,000 sales? Scaling is where you take tests and make them meaningful, because now there's a lot of power behind the ads that are working. And this is the way that you make Facebook ads have meaningful impact for your business, through testing, finding what works, and then scaling it up. And we don't want to waste money, right? We don't want to waste money. So we start off with little tests that don't have a lot of money, and we gradually increase them until all of a sudden we're spending a lot of money on Facebook ads, hopefully getting a lot of airline miles if you know what you're doing in that area, and a lot of conversions, right? So now we're going to talk about the CRED system. We're going to talk about HCP audience, high conversion potential audiences, all in this section. So here are a couple concepts that you need to move on into this section. A decision point in ads is a metric that you use to determine whether or not to increase the daily budget of an ad group. A high conversion potential, or HCP audience, is a group of users that are likely to behave similarly to the audiences receiving your ads that are working. Now, one of the tools that I have created to help you out here is a tool that's all about giving you some ideas around high conversion potential audiences, and as you're going to see up here in the CRED system, expansion audiences. And you can find that tool, it's an idea bank, at go.eazl.co/FBHCP. go.eazl.co/FBHCP. And all of the things that we're going to be doing in this section, when we're doing the side-by-sides, when we're working together, all of that is in the study guide, which you can find at go.eazl.co/F2019, go.eazl.co/F2019. So coming up, I'm going to introduce you to this CRED system for scaling your Facebook ads with an animated video, and then we're going to get hands-on into building some of these HCP and expansion audiences so that you can see some of this stuff and the elements that you need to do this on your own. Have you ever felt intimidated by the idea of spending thousands of dollars a month on ad campaigns? In this module, you're going to learn a 4-step process for starting and then scaling social ad campaigns. With this process and a little bit of patience, you can build a scalable ad campaign that makes sense. The first step is around a core audience. For most people, the first step is to build an audience of at least 100,000 users, advertise to them, and start collecting data. In many cases, you'll start the CRED system with a core audience. Remember that a core audience is an audience that you build from Facebook's user data, like demographics, locations, and interests. This is usually a great time to use Eazl's Rule of 80 interest targeting skills that you've developed. If you already have a list with at least 100,000 people on it, like a large email list, you could also upload this to Facebook for Business and advertise to them as the first step instead of building a new core audience. Your goal at this step is to get a minimum of 20,000 users to show interest in your product or service by clicking on something or engaging with your business in some way that you can track. Step 2 is retargeting. The second step is to create a custom audience of users from step 1 who are likely to convert and then send them retargeting ads. A custom audience is a Facebook audience built through pixel event triggers or by matching Facebook data with your data, like an email list. Remember, you can find an idea bank of high conversion potential audiences at go.eazl.co/FBHCP. For example, you might create a custom audience of people who visited a promotional page that you set up for step 1 of your campaign. Then send them an ad that attempts to convert this audience into paying customers. At this step,
Your goal is to get 1,000 conversions. Step 3, expansion audiences. Now you want to use the data that you collected from steps 1 and 2 and the lookalike audience tool to expand to bigger audiences. Remember, a lookalike audience is a group of users that are similar to one of your existing Facebook for Business audiences. You might try creating lookalike audiences that look like the people who converted in step 2, people who abandoned a shopping cart on your site, or the most engaged users of your website or app. You should start by testing each expansion audience with a budget of $5 to $10 per day, and then let the ads run for a week or so while you continue to expand on what's already working. Step 4 is the decision point. After your ad groups run for enough time to see whether or not they're working well, you're at the decision point. A decision point in ads is a metric that you use to determine whether or not to increase the daily budget of an ad group. So how will you decide which ads to up and which ads to stop? Maybe it's the cost per conversion, or maybe it's the cost per click, or maybe it's the cost per lead. For most people, it makes sense to keep running ad groups and combinations that make more money than they cost to acquire the customer. So in summary, the first step is to build an audience of 100,000 or more users from a core audience or from your own data source. The second step is to create a custom audience with high conversion potential and retarget them with a new campaign. The third step is to use data from steps 1 and 2 and the lookalike audiences tool to try expanding to new audiences. The fourth step is to use some relevant metric to decide which ad groups you keep and which ones you kill.
All right, now we're going to put some of these scale ideas into action. And what we're going to be doing is building some custom audiences that are high conversion potential audiences that you can target as you start to look at the people who've interacted with part 1 of your cred system and you start to try to convert them. So let's start by building a retargeting audience of cart abandoners. You see that I already have one built, but we're going to build a new one just so I can show you how that works. So we're going to be going to create audience, custom audience. Let's do it from web traffic. Let's change this all website visitors to people who visited specific web pages. And then let's put in here checkout. And I'll show you why. Because if you see here, if somebody on Easel's site gets here and then they are able to see that basically, if they get to a place where they are going to be checking out, they're going to be buying something, anytime that they get to that, they're going to have this part of checkout in their URL. And if they purchase it, this is going to change to purchase. And so those are the URL elements that we're going to be using. And each site's going to be a little bit different. But let's go ahead and it contains checkout. Now we want to further refine, but we want to exclude. And this time we want to exclude people who visited specific web pages that contains purchased. So now you can see that we have people who got to a URL with checkout, but not to one with purchased. And then we're going to name our audience cart abandoners. All right, so there we are, cart abandoners last 30 days. But since I've already created that, I'm not going to recreate it. Instead, let's look at the same way of creating a custom audience, but this time from engaged web traffic. So here what we're going to do is we're going to actually delete this second bit of criteria. Let's go to all website visitors to reset stuff. And then instead we're going to go to visitors by time spent. And you remember we did this earlier in the course. But this time instead of 25%, let's do top 5%. So these are people who spent a lot of time on our website, relatively speaking. And we'll name it Easel top 5% time spent. But this is something that we already use here at Easel. So I'm going to cancel this. And we're going to build a retargeting audience based on something different, which is Instagram engagement. And we did this a little bit earlier in the course, so you can see that we're now building your skills. I hope you're feeling more comfortable with this stuff. Let's select Instagram profile, and then we're just going to leave it at people who engaged in the past 30 days, and then we'll name our audience, and then we would create the audience.
And I just want to let you know that you have access to a high conversion potential ideas bank in the study guide. And that's because there's a lot of different high conversion potential audiences to test. Here are 3 good ones. So in the next module, let's look at building lookalike expansion audiences. All right, so the third step in the Easel Cred social ad scale system is to take data from steps 1 and 2 and then find audiences that are similar to the audiences who are hopefully becoming your paid customers now. So we're going to be building 2 kinds of expansion audiences here, one from your pixel and another from social engagement. And this is a little bit of a review if you remember the earlier part of this course, but these are specifically audiences that work well for expanding already successful campaigns. So we're going to we're here in the asset library. So this is under assets, audiences. Let's go to create audience, lookalike audience, and you can really take any of your audiences here and create a lookalike audience. So for example, here's our Easel top 5% of time spent. And then let's go ahead and maybe make this a 2 in terms of the audience size. And then let's just add United States. And then there's our lookalike audience. And we can also do this with social-based expansion audiences. So like, for example, here's our Easel Instagram in the last 20 days engaged audience. So we might go ahead and take that one and then add that to the 2 level with the lookalike audience and then create that audience. And note that when you're testing these audiences, here at Easel, we have found that limiting placements to the Facebook and Instagram main news feed is the way to go. So when you're testing these expansion audiences, I would recommend sticking to the Facebook and Instagram main news feeds in terms of your placements.
All right, congratulations on finishing this scaling section of the course. What I want you to take away is the CRED system, C-R-E-D. Core audiences. Now when you think of core audiences, you should be thinking the Easel rule of 80 in terms of your interest that you're targeting. And then we're going to be thinking about our retargeting. Now this is all about high conversion potential audiences. And remember, we created that guide for you so that you can look into it and you can see what might be my high conversion potential audiences. And then the expansion audiences, which is also in that same tool. And then D, your decision point. So basically when you are taking what's working and then you're expanding it to new audiences, and then you're using your decision point to determine whether or not that ad is worth continuing, because we don't want to be wasting any money.
When you've completed 100% of this course, you're eligible for a custom Facebook Instagram Ads 2019 Certificate of Completion from Easel. We host your certificate on Easel's servers, and we also offer human verification for any employer, client, or other person who wants to ensure that you have earned your certificate. To request your certificate, please follow the instructions at go.easel.co/get certified. go.easel.co/GETCERTIFIED.
Congratulations on finishing this course. I'm proud of you. Thanks for taking the time to learn with Easel, and I'm proud of you for investing in yourself. So let's wrap up with one key takeaway related to each of the 5 skills that you've learned in this course. So the first one, setup. The Facebook pixel is critical for being able to take advantage of everything that Facebook for Business offers. Now, when it comes to audiences, which was the second section that you were in, think of it this way. The core audience, which is related to the Easel rule of 80 audiences, usually you use the core audience targeting feature to bring new people into the top of your funnel. And then you use something like custom audiences, lower in your funnel. So for example, if somebody has added something to their cart, somebody has already expressed interest in your business in some way, you're using a custom audience to try to convert them into paying customers. And you're using lookalike audiences to expand to new audiences based on your data, right? Now let's talk about creative. When it gets into creating your ads, take advantage of dynamic creative. It's very, very powerful. Now, when it comes to launching your ads, remember that objectives are so important because behind any ad that you launch is a lot of technology that Facebook is using to make sure that it is making your ads as effective as possible. A traffic objective versus an awareness objective versus a messenger objective all behave very differently. Now, when it comes to scaling your ads, remember the CRED system: a core audience, retargeting, expanding, and then a decision point. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate a positive review and any referrals that you have. If you have any friends or colleagues that are looking to learn Facebook ads, please let them know about Easel. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope to see you in another Easel course.